The LinkedIn video opportunity is wide open for executives and leaders. Learn how to build trust and elevate your brand in video on LinkedIn in this episode of Closing Time. Thanks for tuning into Closing Time, the show for go-to-market leaders. I'm Val Riley, head of marketing for Insightly, Unbounce, and LeadsRx. Today, I am joined by Devin Reed. He is CEO of Reader, a marketing consulting and media company, and someone we have wanted to have on the show for quite some time. So I'm glad to finally say hello and welcome, Devin Reed.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
Okay, so your resume reads like a who's who of SaaS companies, Gong, Clary, etc. I'd like to use our time together to focus on how go-to-market leaders can be harnessing the power of video, specifically on LinkedIn. So given your experience in those major brands, what do you feel like is the first step towards building a brand on LinkedIn as an executive?
The first step, it would be to have a clear point of view and to get your strategy together and then be ready to play the long game. So I think the reason kind of in that order is there is, as everyone says, so much noise on LinkedIn, which in all honesty, there's like 1 billion users. I think there's like 700 million English speaking users, and only 1% to 2% post, I think weekly, maybe it's monthly. But the point is, like, it's actually a very small amount. So I'd like to lead with this, because if you're hearing this and been like kicking LinkedIn down the, kicking the can down the road, it's only going to get more competitive. So you might as well start now. And so I say one is having a point of view is the best way to differentiate yourself from day one, so you don't fall into the noise and the things that get scrolled by. The second thing is having a clear strategy outline that basically is, going to map out how are we going to use this LinkedIn content to hit our personal and business goals. So that's like super important. I think a lot of people just say, show up and post and good things will happen. Sometimes that might be the case, but in a couple months, you're going to look back and go, wait, why are we doing this? And are we seeing results? Is this good? Is this bad? And that's why a lot of programs get shelved. Mm-hmm. And then the third is, if you're building a reputation, whether it's online or in person, it's going to take time. And so just commit to the long game. Know there's going to be ups and downs. You're both marketing to people, but every time you post, you're basically rolling the dice and hoping the algorithm shows you some love that day. So just be ready for the long haul and like literally love the process of showing up, of writing, and ultimately of helping the people, that you want to probably, I'm guessing, sell to on the platform.
I think the strategy portion is super important because, like you said, maybe a few years ago, just regular posting might get you favorability and follows. But now you really, there is so much noise that thinking ahead of like, what's the overall presence and what do I want to communicate as a theme, and then writing posts that pick up on that theme really can set you apart from those folks that are just kind of haphazardly getting stuff out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Little tactical question here. Is there a recommended length or format for video content on LinkedIn that seems to work?
Yeah, so I was curious about this too, because a few months ago, you might have seen you open LinkedIn on your phone and there was that video feed. Have you seen that, Val? Are you familiar?
I have not, no.
Oh, okay. Well, then let me introduce you. It should be on your phone, and if you're listening, it should be there. But basically what they did was introduce a TikTok-like feed on the mobile app. And so when I saw that, of course, my brain, one, I'm flipping through it, not just to consume, but like, this is a new feature. I'm like, what are they putting on this feed? And then, of course, I started getting the questions like, well, how do you get picked up? What is working? What's not? And so we did a little research where we looked at 250 videos on my feed and a couple other people's feed, and really did basically found like 10 different kind of like characteristics of videos that get picked up on the feed. And of course, one of them was length. Val, I was curious, And so the data shows that between 1 and 2 minutes was the most successful. And so that, again, that's to be picked up on the feed, not necessarily, did that video hit their personal goals? Obviously, we don't know that. But I would say sub 90 seconds on LinkedIn is that sweet spot. It gives you enough time to, present your hook, make your key points, but you can kind of get in and out quickly because, again, people are scrolling, they're in between meetings, right? They don't always have a ton of time to watch like a 5-10 minute video. That's what YouTube is great for. So I would say that's where the best spot is. And I try to almost never go over 2 minutes.
Okay, so When you initially asked your question, I said no, but when you said TikTok, that's when it struck me. You're talking about that little bar of videos that you can move through. So yeah, I have seen that, and it is only on mobile, which is super interesting. I guess that speaks to where LinkedIn feels like they can add more engagement, on the phone versus on the desktop.
Yeah, 100%. And also, I mean, LinkedIn, LinkedIn used to be the digital resume platform for professionals. And over the last 2 or 3 years, it has transferred into a true social media platform. And so if you look at all the things they're doing, the changes you've probably seen lately, that is to me like a social media platform kind of going through puberty, right? They're kind of figuring out who they're going to be. Should we be like TikTok? Should we be like, more old school LinkedIn? So it makes it tricky to kind of keep up with what's working. But it also provides a lot of opportunity for the people who are paying attention, staying ahead of the curve. You can kind of see where the platform's heading and adjust your content and your strategy accordingly.
I'll quote a previous guest who I know you and I both know well, Anish Lal. He's calling LinkedIn the digital water cooler of the world, which I think is brilliant because it really is where, virtually where executives can just meet and talk and engage with each other in a virtual manner. So I told him he should trademark that.
He should. He's a very clever guy.
So we often hear that LinkedIn rewards certain types of content, and obviously by reward means kind of like gets picked up with the algorithm. Is it true that video is still the best, or, does it really just depend on the content of the post?
I would say, despite what LinkedIn has said lately, video has been a little tricky to get as much traction as kind of promised. And I share that openly because I know a lot of people are, seeing and hearing video being picked up and then doing video and not necessarily seeing the results that maybe they kind of anticipated. So my thought is, even if you get less views than a text post, which, by the way, I built my whole career on text posts. They're the highest ROI because they're the cheapest to make, and they seem to have the highest consumption rate. And I think too is most posts on LinkedIn historically were text, right? Images and carousels is still very new. Video is still incredibly new, high quality video, whether you call that high entertainment value, like a day in the life video, or a highly produced video, is still quite new. So you also have to think maybe the consumption behavior hasn't quite caught up. You know what I mean? So the text would be better. And so I would say, even if your videos aren't getting as many views as your text posts, don't worry just about how many impressions you get. Worry about the impression you make. And on video, you can make a great impression. You can hear my voice, my intonation. You can't see it, but I'm talking with my hands a lot right now. Those are the things that kind of turn folks from passive followers into fans, and then maybe even into clients, depending if that's your goal. So I always say, hey, still mix in some video. It can be high produced. It can be low polish. It doesn't really matter, but definitely mix some video in there to round out your content strategy.
So drilling down a little bit more on video, in terms of topics, is it thought leadership content that you would lean towards for an executive? Is it semi-promotional content where you're talking about a category or even a brand? Or is there a line that you see executives can walk pretty successfully there?
Yeah, it's a great question. So right now I'm helping 5 different executives run their LinkedIn strategy and feed. And the 3 posts that do, the most numbers in terms of both views and, gets you followers and pretty much all of the engagement metrics you would want. The first is share your winning playbooks. So executives or folks in a senior leader position, you're probably there because you did something right. You have done, you've hit some goals, you broke some records. Share that proof point, 20% quarter over quarter growth, whatever, and then share the step-by-step of how you got there. That is the new era of thought leadership. People want receipts, they want screenshots. And if you're willing to show that, people will gravitate towards you and they will view you as someone who's not BSing them, right? Because there's a lot of folks who just say things on the internet. That's not new. The other one is industry commentary. So one example is I have a CEO who sells to CFOs. And what we do is we look through the news, and if she sees a headline that grabs her attention, we just talk through it for a few minutes. And one that got her 500,000 views was her just screenshotting the news article that Salesforce just hired a COFO, no typo, that's a chief operating and financial officer. And she was like, I've never seen this before. And so I was like, tell me more. And so her just commenting on a couple sentences and then with that screenshot did a great job getting reviews and a great comments of other finance leaders, giving their opinion, which is what you want. You want a conversation. And then the third one is vulnerable moments or hard learned lessons. I'll run with the same CEO. She shared that she'd bombed her first board meeting. And I was like, tell me more, tell me everything. And those are the posts where she shared these little moments of, hey, I thought I was going to do well by doing X. I showed up to the board meeting or I talked to my co-founder. Things went sideways. Here's why it went sideways. And here's what I should have done instead or what I do instead now. And so when you mix in those three things, you're both sharing, hey, true thought leadership, how to do something. You're sharing kind of cautionary tales and vulnerable moments of what not to do. And you're staying super relevant by commenting and sharing your opinion on the things going on in your industry.
I love that example, Devin, specifically because sometimes you see a new acronym, especially as a marketer, because it's like acronyms every day. And you're thinking, oh, gosh, I should know what that means. And in that case, she basically said, hey, I've not heard this before. Here's what I'm thinking about it. And it sounds like that vulnerability that, I don't know everything. I'm taken off guard occasionally, too, really resonated with people.
It does. It really does. And it's funny because I don't know her world that well. So when we work together, me kind of playing rookie helps because I looked at the headline and thought what you thought. I was like, this sounds kind of like nonsense. Like, okay, we're just making up new titles today. And she's like, no, this could mean something different. She read the article and she's like, oh no, I'm actually really interested in this. And so when you also sense either for yourself or if you're working with an executive, like their eyebrows move up or you hear the passion in their voice, that is a signal of something that you should definitely lean into, focus on, kind of let that train of thought happen, write all of it down, and then you can kind of form it into something folks want to read.
How do you convince busy C-suite executives, like in this case, you're talking about a CEO, that there's value in posting regularly on LinkedIn and that they need to commit the time and the energy to do it? Because it feels like even if you've given them a helping hand, which is what you're doing, it feels like they have 8,000 other things to do before they prioritize it.
So I'm lucky that if folks come to me, they've probably been following my LinkedIn content. And so they're already pretty bought in. And it's usually folks who have been wanting to do it, but don't know how, or it's kind of like, hey, I'm going to get to the gym next month and you just haven't gotten to it. Right. And it's all good. I'm the same guy for both the gym and LinkedIn sometimes. But the way that I've helped CMOs nudge their CEO over the fence is using loss aversion. So it's usually saying, hey, we're kind of in a conversation and it's like, hey, do you notice your competitors on LinkedIn? And you're usually like, oh yeah. So yeah, you just made the same face. It's like, oh yeah, that one person that's kind of kicking our butt a little bit. I'm like, if you don't start now, imagine how painful thinking of that person is going to be in a year. Because they're at it and they're doing it and they're going to steal all the attention on the feed from your market because you just don't want to put in the work. Now I'm being a little harsh to prove my point here, and obviously you can pick your tone. The other part is, though, you do also need to minimize the lift or the perceived lift. And so that's why I say, hey, look, you're going to give me 4 hours a month. In 4 hours a month, we are going to see results within 90 days. And you're going to get so excited that you're going to want more time and you're going to want to scale this thing. Like that's what's going to happen. And so then they get excited, right? So you kind of want to like tell them what's at stake, and then also just say, hey, look, it's actually not that hard. Here's what it's going to look like, which with me is like, we interview, we do quote unquote interview or conversations twice a month for 30 minutes. And then I push/make them do some revisions of each post because you want their tone, because I tell them all the time, I'm not you. I will never sound exactly like you. And two, you want them to have some skin in the game. You want them to feel that they have ownership and they're co-creating this content, not just to get it out the door, but when something pops off, you want them to feel good, right? You want them to feel part of the team, not just kind of lending their name or giving you the keys to the LinkedIn account.
I think that last part is super important because, yeah, they will feel a sense of pride. I know officially LinkedIn says it does not favor in the algorithm C-suite titles, but I sort of feel like it secretly does. Do you have any opinion on that?
I don't think the algorithm has it built in to reward titles, but I think what happens is that our brains are the ones that actually like the titles, because when you see CEO, CMO, CFO posting something, we notice two things. One is instant credibility. It is it's the highest ranking position at these companies. And two, it's scarcity. Like, how often do you see a CFO or a CEO posting on LinkedIn? It's pretty rare. So when you see it, our ears kind of perk up and we're like, oh, we're getting some inside knowledge. They're sharing some great wisdom that's probably really valuable. And then when you add in video, it's even more rare. Like, a CEO with credibility, something to say, and is on video. So I think that's what draws us in a little bit more. I could be wrong. I don't work at LinkedIn. But yeah, so that's why I think is like, I also tell the C-suite folks I work with, like, you're going to get a boost compared to everybody else just because you're CEO. Like, you have it baked in. You might as well take advantage of it.
All right. Maybe one day we'll break into LinkedIn headquarters to see if we can discover the secret sauce together. But yeah, I do agree. I feel like maybe it's just mentally we are, as browsers of LinkedIn, are selecting and opting into C-suite content, which makes it seem like it's a bit more ubiquitous.
I'll share an example with that CEO that sells to CFOs. We've been working together for 5 months. She's got about 6 million views on her content. So she's crushing it. And we notice her top performing posts include the CFO title. So she's like, hey, as CFO, or when I'm talking to CFOs, those consistently outperform everything else. So we use it sparingly, obviously, but that phrases like boardroom, I think those are just, again, those words of like, oh, we're getting insider access. And so we've seen that work. Sure.
I mean, isn't almost everybody aspirational C-suite? So I feel like, you're mentally picking up on those words. I'd like to drill down a little bit tactically now and talk about the LinkedIn preference for kind of keeping you on the platform, versus a CTA that's like, hey, go read this article that I published and it's off the platform. I know I have personally seen extreme differences in posts that pull you off of LinkedIn and posts that keep you on LinkedIn. But how do you manage that or walk that line? Because you want people engaging with an article or a piece of research that's not on LinkedIn. So how do you kind of have that compromise?
Yeah, it's a great point. So one, putting a link to inside your LinkedIn post will drastically reduce your views for 99% of the time. So I almost never do it. It goes back to LinkedIn is a social media platform now. They want you to stay on their feed because they have advertisers, yada, yada. So the algorithm definitely sees links. And I've tested this over and over every couple months just to make sure. And it's definitely true. So my recommendation first is to switch your thinking on even needing the link at all. So a great example, working with a CEO, a couple of weeks ago, they had a different one. They had a huge product launch come out. They had a press release. Now, a lot of companies go, great, put a little bit in the post and get people to that press release. To which I said, one, we can write a better press release because press releases aren't that good. No offense to anyone writing them. They're all the same. They're formulaic. Yeah. So I was like, why don't we just take the core message? That's what you really want, CEO. You want people to see these 2 or 3 main points, what you launched, why you launched it, what it means for customers, right? It's usually the 3 kind of things. So instead of like, just ignore the link and take the core message out and let's make the best LinkedIn post to get the best views on that message, because that's what you really want. And then you can put, by the way, full press release in the comments, and then you can, make that a PS line. Most people probably won't click that because they already got the core message. And so that's why I try to coach people is like, focus on 0-click content. If you absolutely need to get someone to the link, like it's for an event or, a downloadable piece of, content like thought leadership. Instead, I would still say 0-click content, make the post highly engaging, but make it a teaser. Right. So you can say, hey, if there's 10 stats that we just found from this LinkedIn video research, give that stat away, give the best one away, and then say, P.S. there's 9 more. And if the post is good, people are going to sprint to that link and find it because they want more of what you're offering.
Yeah. So it sounds like we're prioritizing that. I love that term, dwell time on the platform, like keeping people in that walled garden. So is it okay, in your opinion, to ask for a follow or a comment in those ways where you're like overtly encouraging engagement with a post? Or do you want that to be like more organic where people think, oh, I really like that. I'm going to follow or comment?
I think a follow me CTA is totally fine. Okay. I wouldn't use it all the time. I also say, like, don't say DM me, if you want to talk about this topic because you're trying to sell to them all the time. But yeah, occasionally I think it's totally fine. Like if you have a high value winning playbook, and then the last thing is like, PS, follow me for more tips on content strategy, you're just making it easier and you've probably earned the right for a CTA. Same thing goes if you don't necessarily want to have a like a hard CTA, like do a thing, you can just ask a question, which in a way is also a CTA because you want engagement. So I think it's more about varying your CTAs. And if you're going to ask someone to download, click, sign up for something, try to make it an earned CTA, like make it the obvious next step and kind of earn that right. So when they see the CTA, they're like, oh yeah, of course I want to go see Val in person. I love this post. I've been following her for a while. Or yeah, you know what? I actually do want to follow her. I'll just click her profile and jump over there. But again, you don't have to. Like I don't know if I've ever, someone could search my 1,400 LinkedIn posts and see if I've ever said like, follow me. I don't know if I have. I don't think you have to.
Well, yeah, it feels like if it's truly authentic, right, and people are engaging with it, that they would have that thought on their own, that you wouldn't need to overtly ask for it. I guess that's kind of what we're going for.
Yeah, exactly. But again, no, if you're posting a couple times a week, there's nothing wrong with throwing out a CTA to follow you, subscribe, all that stuff. There's nothing wrong with it.
So I feel like a theme for our talk today, Devin, is really just around, a lot of it is around authenticity. So even if you're getting help from someone or if you're doing it yourself, you really just want to show up as your true self with a point of view and really just continually engage for the long game. That's my takeaway.
I love it. I've done my job today.
Awesome. Devin, if people want to follow you or learn more about your newsletter, The Reader, where should they go?
Yes. Well, I've said LinkedIn 100 times on this, so you can find me there. Mm-hmm. I do have a weekly newsletter called The Reader Newsletter. And I also have a show called Read Between the Lines on YouTube. If you want to watch, I interview different marketers, creators, and entrepreneurs across the country. And if you're wondering, wow, he puts his name in all of his titles. I'm a dad. I love dad jokes and puns. But those are the only two. I think everything else has unique names. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
I was going to say, this is a man who doesn't shy away from a pun, so I love it.
Never.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, we've had our eye on you for a while. It was a pleasure to finally have you on the show.
Likewise. Thank you.
And thanks to all of you for tuning into Closing Time. Remember, you can click that link in the show notes and get this episode delivered to your inbox. We'll see you next week.